evening. This is a meeting of the Borough of Highlands Mayor and Council regular meeting, February 2nd, 2022. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press and the True River Times, and by posting at the Borough of Highlands Municipal Building and filing with the Borough Clerk all on January 1st, 2022. The items listed on the agenda are subject to change. I'll now call the roll. Councilmember Cervantes.
Here.
Councilmember Chalak.
Here.
Councilmember Melnick.
Here.
Council President Olszewski.
Here.
Mayor Bouillon. Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we have a proclamation in memoriam of Mr. Anthony Bucco.
Oh, good, good. And if you can just let me know which family member I should be sending the signed copy to? Marita, I would imagine?
Probably Marita.
Good.
It's gonna cost you. The first one's always free.
This is a proclamation in memoriam of Mr. Anthony Tony Bucco. Whereas Mr. Anthony Bucco, a longtime citizen of the Borough of Highlands, passed away on January 17th, 2022. And whereas Mr. Bucco served with honor in the United States Army during World War II, serving under General Douglas MacArthur's headquarters in the Philippines and Australia. Whereas Mr. Bucco was a man of many talents and interests, he served Highlands in many capacities over the years as a councilman, member, then chairman of the zoning board, member of the juvenile committee, commander of VFW Post 6902, trustee and money counter at OLPH. And whereas Mr. Bucco will be deeply missed and warmly remembered as a kind, friendly, and helpful neighbor who had a strong sense of community. He adored his New York Yankees and a good glass of red wine. Highlands will never be the same without him. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Highlands their deepest condolences and sympathies to the Bucco family, and be it further proclaimed the Mayor and Council extend their deepest thanks and fond memory for the well-lived life of Mr. Anthony Bucco and for his contributions and dedication to his family, friends, neighbors, and our community. We wish you Godspeed and eternal peace.
Thank you. Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have the approval of minutes for the January 25th, 2022 special meeting.
I'll make that offer.
I'll second.
This was for the skate park meeting. I believe the two of you were absent, so you'd have to abstain.
Okay. Councilmember Cervantes.
Abstain.
Councilmember Chalak.
Abstain.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve minutes. Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have a public hearing on proposed ordinances. Our first ordinance 22-03, an ordinance amending Schedule A of the Borough of Highlands Salary Ordinance. Do we have a motion?
To enter into the public hearing, I will make it.
I'll second.
Okay. Would any member like to speak to this ordinance?
May I ask, I'm sorry, Chairman, right, this ordinance is this?
This is amending the salary ordinance.
Okay.
Seeing no member of the public, I'll close public portion, and then I will offer this ordinance.
Second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
And Mayor Brion.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt this ordinance on second and final reading.
The next public hearing will be on the ordinance designating restricted parking in front of residence occupied by a person with disabilities. Does any member of the public have any comment on this restricted parking for someone with disabilities in our borough? Okay, seeing no comments, I will close public portion and I will offer this ordinance.
I will second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
And Mayor Brion.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. At this time, we have our resolutions for tonight. Our first resolution, 22-058, a resolution authorizing filing a petition to Commissioner of Education.
I'll offer it.
I will second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
As my wife is a member of the Highlands Elementary Board of Education, I'm recusing myself from this vote.
Okay. Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes, and I have a little bit that I'd like to say about this. New Jersey has more school districts per county than any other state. This statistic has come about because New Jersey also has a long history of its municipalities favoring home rule. An example of this is that New Jersey has 564 municipalities and 686 operating school districts. How can that be, you ask? Give an example. Well, we are. Atlantic Highlands, and Henry Hudson Regional have a so-called tri-district. Why a tri? Highlands Elementary School with 179 students, pre-K through 6, and Atlantic Highlands Elementary with 257 students, pre-K through 6, and Henry Hudson Regional with approximately 330 students, grades 7 through 12, share services and a superintendent. 3 schools, pre-K through 12, 738 students in 3 buildings, each with its own school board, 25 school board members, in all whose stated purpose is as follows, and I read. A dual role, to represent the concerns of the citizens, taxpayers, and parents to the school administrators, and to represent the needs of the students and school district to the citizens, taxpayers, and parents of the community. The school board does not operate a district on a day-to-day basis. That's the job of the superintendent, who is the district's chief executive. Rather, the school board sets the policies, goals, and objectives for the district, and it holds the superintendent responsible for implementing the policies and achieving the goals. It is important to note that there is no board that is overseeing the educational and fiscal responsibilities of our students from pre-K through to grade 12. Decisions are more or less fragmented to serve the student body and facility of each school alone, not together. To give you just a comparison, in my former life, I worked for a large school district. There were close to 5,000 students, 7 buildings, 1 superintendent, 1 school board with 9 members, 1 business administrator, 1 of almost everything in terms of central office. And again, the needs of the kids, and there was a building that was just pre-K and K. There were 2 middle schools, there were 4 elementary schools and a high school, and yet the decision-making for everything was under the aegis of one board. So, the state of New Jersey, by means of Bill S-3488, seeks to strongly encourage school districts that already have some degree of cooperation with others to formally consolidate their districts into functional K-12 districts, regional districts, for the benefit of students, families, and municipalities. That bill passed and was signed by the governor a few weeks ago. Furthermore, the state of New Jersey is extending the opportunity and funding for registered voters in municipalities that are aligned in their desire to form pre-K through 12 regional school districts to conduct a referendum and make the decision as to whether or not to form a K-12 regional district. Highlands, along with Seabright, Atlantic Highlands, and Highlands, has expressed common interest in going forward and will each have townwide meetings in which residents will have the opportunity to meet, to learn, and discuss the educational, financial, and social benefits that may be there for us if we merge. We'll have a meeting in April, and we're also going to have another meeting in the fall. A feasibility study was commissioned in 2019 and revised and reissued in December of 2021. Among its opening statements is this: the dissolution of the existing districts and the creation of a new pre-K-12 regional school district would have clear educational, financial benefits for the students of all 3 communities. The stated opportunities include better overall functional performance, shared expertise, stronger internal controls, economies of scale. For instance, there's a business manager who serves the high school, and that same business manager serves Atlantic Highlands. There's another business manager who serves the elementary. Shared expertise, stronger internal controls, economies of scale, expanding capacities, and the creation of a clean slate. No more, that's how it's always been done. Let's look at it freshly. Unification presents an opportunity to challenge old practices, keep those that work, and modify those that don't. The state will cover the cost of the studies that have been done and the election itself. So the state recognizes that a decision that impacts the budgets and wallets of every taxpayer and rests the decision-making in the hands of the voters via a referendum. And my vote?
Yes. Mayor Bouillon?
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance.
Public portion is at the end.
Okay. Our next resolution, we have 22-059, a resolution referring the proposed development plan for the Central Business District redevelopment area to the Land Use Board of the borough.
I offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
I recuse.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Bouillon.
I recuse.
Motion carries to adopt a resolution 22-059. Next, we have resolution 22-060, a resolution appointing member of the Environmental Advisory Commission.
Would you like to offer this one, Karen?
Sure. What's the proper thing to say?
Offer.
I'll
Yeah.
offer it.
Okay?
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
And Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-060. At this time, we have resolution 22-061, a resolution authorizing the County of Monmouth Mosquito Control Division to conduct aerial mosquito control operations within the Borough of Highlands.
I'll offer. Oh, go ahead. Olszewski.
Okay.
I'll second it, they love me.
Okay. Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes,
And Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-064. Our next resolution, we have 22-065, a resolution appointing deputy emergency management coordinators. I'm sorry, it's double-sided. Our next, resolution is 22-062, a resolution certifying the approving 2020 LoSAP contributions.
I'll offer it.
Second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes,
Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-062. Our next resolution, we have 22-063, a resolution designating superintendent of public works to perform the duties of borough administrator during his absence or disability for the calendar year 2022.
I'll offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes,
And Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-063. At this time, we have the 22-064, resolution authorizing payment of bills.
I'll offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes,
And Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-064. And at this time, we have resolution 22-065, a resolution appointing deputy emergency management coordinators.
I'll offer it.
Second.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chalak.
yes,
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
yes,
Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-065. At this time, we have no items under other business. Now we have reports. First, we have the mayor's report.
Okay, this is for January's report. Construction updates. We had, work began on the North Street pump upgrades, this on January 14th. This project has been on the books since 2013 and is, finally getting addressed. The Veterans Park equipment and swing installation with resurfacing was completed on January 27th. Huddy Park playground equipment was installed. The new border was done on January 14th, and we're just waiting for mulch. The Snug Harbor parking area, playground, basketball, tennis courts with a pickleball inlay on that tennis ball court. We're going to be doing all those upgrades, and we're just waiting for news on when the installer can begin. We advertised construction to go out to bid for the municipal building on January 20th. Really big news here is the DEP finally gave us final approval to advertise for bids for the large Waterwitch Bay Avenue sanitary sewer project that encompasses this area here as well. That approval was given to us on January 27th, and CME promptly went out to bid. It was in the newspaper for February 1st. Some engineering that was awarded. We're doing a GIS mapping of stormwater sanitary sewer systems, as well as all of our stormwater outfall inspections and bulkhead mapping for the entire town. Drainage improvements for Barbary Avenue, for those not aware of the dead end of Barbary, in between Shore and Bay Avenue. It's a bit of a mess, and Bennett's going to have more to say on that. And Also, we awarded the Phase 2 of the sanitary sewer project, which encompasses Seadrift through Washington. Grant submitted. The New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Financing Program, commonly referred to as the IBEC, that is in process for the Coastal Water Quality Restoration Program and Phase 2 for the sanitary sewer. Also, I spoke about this at the last meeting, and that is the 2022 Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration, otherwise known as REPI program, and that is the one where 38 pre-proposals were sent in from organizations all around the country, and Highlands was one of 20 that were asked for a full proposal. So the grant writers are working on that, and that application is due on March 21. We also submitted a letter of intent to the skate park project, commonly known as the Tony Hawk Foundation, and also the pedestrian safety grants, and that is from the state. Some grants that were awarded in January was the 2022 Local Recreation Improvement Grant, so that's $75,000 that will be used to make various improvements in and around Veterans Park. Also, the 2022 Bayshore DWI Saturation Patrol, that was for $7,200. That was awarded on January 11th. And then the 2022 Distracted Driving Enforcement Patrol, $4,800, and that was awarded on January 28th. The COVID-19 update for January, Highland saw its largest number ever, 165 new cases of COVID-19. That's more than double any other single month since these numbers have been released. Our total number of cases is 678. We had a vaccine clinic at the community center here on January 13th. We started testing in February, and just so that everyone knows, that's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The two dates that we are not doing it is February 18 and February 19. But all of the other dates, Monday through Friday, we will be. Highlands continues to be the least vaccinated municipality in the county, with only 60% having one shot, 53% having 2 shots. Updates on larger projects, as I mentioned before, the large Waterwitch and Bay Avenue sanitary project. We got that final authorization, and CNE is preparing the IBAC grant documents. The flood mitigation plans, we started working on North Street. For our FEMA, it's called BRIC, which is Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. New Jersey OEM finished up our submission that we gave to them November 15th of last year, and they sent it on to FEMA for processing on January 31st. On the new building, as I mentioned, we went out to construction on January 20th. There is a submission deadline of February 11th. There was a meeting. Spencer, if you would like to speak to how many people were there to ask questions? I know the room was jammed.
Yeah, it was pretty crowded.
Yeah. Okay. So it was pretty crowded, which means a lot of people are interested in bidding on the project, which is always better when you have a lot of bidders. The Waterwitch pump station, and that is to do upgrades and install backup generators. That was awarded to engineering on December 15th, and we're going to, H2M is the name of the company, and they've been working on the plan documents. They've been working very closely with New Jersey OEM, and they are looking to go out to bid in March. Going on to areas in need of redevelopment. Shadowlawn, DEP is reviewing with their land use program. We have a meeting next week, so hopefully we'll have some good news on that one. Captain's Cove DEP permits were signed off on December 20th, and we are currently working with Redevelopment Council, and hopefully we'll get that piece nailed down before the end of the first quarter. For the commercial business district, as you may have noticed today, the amended plan was released, and now that is being sent to the land use board, where they will determine if it is consistent with the master plan and possibly give recommendations. Creating the Overlook Park, that was awarded to engineering. Perhaps Bennett will be updating us on that as well. We're still working with FEMA to set up the beginnings of our CRS system. Slope ordinance, I gave the existing ordinance to Councilwoman Chalock, and she will be working with the Environmental Commission on that. Skate park, we had that last visioning meeting on January 25th. Lots of also great feedback was sent into the borough via email. And Jason is working on having some kind of design. Today was the last day that he was getting in comments, so he's going to be looking to update that design hopefully before the end of this month. And for Monmouth Hills, we are going to be working with the engineer that Monmouth Hills HOA hired, and work on them collaboratively to try to finally resolve this issue. And that's my report.
Before going over to engineering, just shameless plug for the website. If you couldn't keep up with all those updates, if you go to the website, the top left corner, there's the mayor's welcome and updates. At the bottom, you'll find this current update. We'll post it shortly after this meeting. But all of that, this update, as well as previous updates, are there for your review as well. So no need to take notes today. You can just go out and read it later. And while you're there, you can scroll to the bottom. You can subscribe to the news and get a push notification of all the news that happens in town while you're there. So, shameless plug over. Back over to you, Dad.
Thank you for that word from our local sponsor. So I have a few updates, Mayor. As you said, we're very happy to have the Bay Avenue Waterwich Phase 1 sanitary sewer project out to bid. The bid opening for that is scheduled for March 3rd. We have the improvements to King and Matthew Street, which utilizes the 2021 DOT grant that the borough has. We had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor on March 20th. Work is expected to start in the next month, weather permitting. We have a few park projects that we're working on. Gertrude Ederle Park and Veterans Memorial Park. We've finished up the plans. We have submitted them to the borough to be distributed. I know the Garden Club wanted to take a look at the plans, provide some input, so we're waiting to hear back on that, and then we'll be putting those projects out to bid. As you mentioned, the improvements to Snug Harbor Park, we have a project advertised for bid. The bid opening is February 16th. That includes reconstruction of the parking lot, getting a contractor in to do the installation of some of those amenities that you mentioned, the tennis court and basketball court surface, as well as some other upgrades. For Overlook Park, the survey has been completed, and we have begun design on that project. The drainage improvements to Barbary Avenue, that project was awarded, and we anticipate construction to start in March. We also are working on the design of the South Bay and Hillside Avenue project. That is a 2022 DOT grant. We're wrapping up the plans on that, and we'll be submitting to the DOT for approval shortly. And as you mentioned, we're we started the application process for the Phase 2 sanitary sewer. Now that the Phase 1 is going out to bid, we're already working on Phase 2. It's a long application process, many steps, but, we want to get moving on that so we can jump right into Phase 2 after Phase 1 is complete. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
I can't believe I didn't speak to this. The Army Corps, the Congress, through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, released a great deal of money to the Army Corps of Engineers to fund projects. The ones in our area are $2.5 million for design and engineering for the Raritan, Sandy Hook Bay, and Highlands projects. And also $128 million for the actual implementation. So that's pretty gigantic news. I have been playing phone tag with the Mr. Gentile from the Army Corps, which is why I didn't include it in my report, because I wanted to give you some more information on all of that money. And I think, unless anyone else has anything that they'd like to add, I'll open up public portion.
Okay. Individuals wishing to address the council shall be recognized by the presiding officer and shall give their name, address, and the group, if any, they represent. Although the council encourages public participation, it reserves the right through its presiding officer to terminate remarks to and or by any individual not in keeping with the conduct of proper and efficient meeting. If any individual refuses to conduct themselves in a proper manner, they will be removed from the meeting. The council will not, during the public portion of this meeting, discuss matters involving employment, appointment, termination of employment, negotiations, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation of performance of promotion or discipline of any specific or prospective or current employee. There is a 3-minute time limit for your comments.
Go ahead, Mr. Francis.
I think you can hear me from my seat.
The recording, it's more so the recording than what we could hear in the room.
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street in Highlands. I want to clarify on the consolidation resolution. I didn't hear you say, nor did I read, that Seabright's included in the...
Yes, they are.
Because I know I saw their resolution. I wanted, at this point, it's not just us, it's Seabright also.
Correct.
Okay, very good. And when does the referendum have to get
It'll be-
onto the ballot? I mean,
Well, that's why we're doing this resolution to petition the Commissioner of Education
right,
to let us put it on the ballot for November, general election.
okay. If Atlantic Highlands drags their feet, how is that gonna work?
We'll have to see.
Okay. A second question, if I may?
Sure.
Environmental Committee sent a report talking about the flood control and working with the Colliers, and thank you for supporting it. There's a key I guess a decision point coming up related to Captain's Cove, Perini's plans, DEP approval, and it concerns the 8-foot bulkhead existing bulkhead elevation. And I'm not sure how Highlands can let Perini move ahead without doing something about that 8-foot elevation. And the reality is, he can't pay for it himself. He's forced to repair the bulkhead, but he can't pay for putting the bulkhead back in at, say, 10 feet. All right? Yet the Colliers report clearly references that it is the weak link in any flood control program. And I know Perini wants to move ahead, and I know Highlands wants to support him moving ahead. But somehow we have to get around that he can't move ahead until there's a decision about the bulkhead. And that may not be popular, but, as I'm speaking to you, Mr. Melnick, we talked about it at the Beef and Brew.
We did.
Yeah. The goal of expediting, Captain's Cove is good goal, all right? But not at the risk of leaving Highland vulnerable at a, 8-foot bulkhead height the way it is now. And I'm just hoping, Mayor, that, because you hold the hammer on this.
Yes, I know, and we are in a negotiation, so I can't really talk about the details of that until it's been negotiated.
Yes, I just want to be clear that, Don's feelings are his own. At this point, I'd like to make sure, well, at this point, he feels at this point, and I don't mind,
Feel free.
all right? He feels that the 8-foot elevation is okay if it expedites the total project.
To be clear, if the DEP is approving that plan,
But the
The DEP
DEP
has
isn't
to-
approving the bulkhead height. But I don't know. I'm asking, Mayor, that at this point, there's a focus on that bulkhead.
Yes,
That's,
I hear you.
all right. Signing off. Thank you.
thank you.
Please. Yep.
Good evening.
Not yet.
My name is Irene Campbell. I'm here on my own regardless as a own citizen, but I am a member of the Highlands Board of Education, and I have been for 21 years. And I came here tonight to ask you to table your resolution. I'm disappointed you didn't. I'm disappointed in this whole council. You are aware that the Highlands Board of Education is doing their own feasibility study, which we just started recently. And the president of the board told me the other day that she met with the mayors of the 3 districts, the 3 towns, and you were waiting to hear the outcome of our feasibility study before you went ahead with this. I know you had a feasibility study in 2019, funded by the taxpayers. We were not happy with that, so we got our own. We got a grant, the LEAP grant, and we are in the middle of starting our own study. So where does this leave us now? I ask you to pull that resolution and wait to hear what our feasibility study says. I mean, we're a small town, we all live in the same town, you have to get along, and I'm really, really deeply upset with each and every one of you. And I supported you guys when you ran, and I'm really, really disappointed. Thank you.
Just to answer you, Irene, as I said when, we were doing the vote on that resolution, all this resolution does is ask for permission to put it on the ballot. And that's not gonna happen until November. And your study from the meeting that we had at the beginning of the year, not beginning of the year, before the beginning of the school year, was, that your study would be done by June, which is well in advance of the November election. Okay. Yes, please.
Hi, Rachel Stockton, 31 Grand Tour. I am a member of the Highlands Elementary School staff for the past 22 years. I try to go to almost all of the Board of Ed meetings, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 in the past 20 years that I've missed. I don't ever recall seeing a member of council coming to the Board of Education meeting recently and saying that this resolution was going to be on the agenda. I'm just wondering why that was my first, because I found out about it today, so I was a little surprised, because I do go to most of the meetings. Why at least a member of council didn't just come to the Board of Ed meeting and say, hey, this is happening. And, you know, why didn't the council maybe approach the Board of Ed and let them know, or let the, you know, let people who go to the Board of Ed meetings know this was happening? You know, maybe more people would be able to come out and ask questions. That's my first question. My second question is, has Atlantic Highlands and Seabright also passed the same resolution to put this on a referendum in November?
Seabright passed their resolution last year.
Okay,
I believe they're gonna pass yet another one this year.
Yeah.
And, Atlantic Highlands, I've been told, is going to pass their resolution shortly.
so, you know, in light of the fact that the tri-district schools applied for this LEAP grant together, Highlands, Atlantic Highlands, and Henry Hudson all worked very hard together on applying for this grant from the state to do their own feasibility study. I'm not sure if the council was aware that they had applied and received the grant to do their own feasibility study. In light of that, why the council wouldn't wait to see the results of that study. I don't think Seabright is included in that grant, but why the council wouldn't wait to move ahead with the resolution until all of the information is in from that LEAP grant study. So,
I believe that study is just Atlantic Highlands, and Hudson.
yes, correct. And my other question, you know, maybe I missed the meeting. Did a member of council come to the Board of Education and discuss the fact that this resolution was going to be passed this evening? I know I'm, you know, surprised to hear about it today for the first time. I'm not sure if other Board of Ed members knew that it was happening, or even the superintendent of schools knew in advance of this week that it was happening. I don't know, I can't speak for the superintendent, but I just know I go to most of the meetings, so. Did any member of council?
Approach a member? No.
No, come
We
to
did,
a
we
public.
did make it clear at that meeting with the administrator, Joanne and myself, and the three schools, that we were waiting on the legislation to make its way through the Assembly and Senate, which it did, without a single nay vote. And then as soon as, the governor made some changes, and then both of those chambers adopted those changes, that he pledged he was gonna sign it, and we said, when the governor signs legislation, we're gonna move on. I understand from, some old timers at the Board of Ed, that this has been discussed for over 40 years, and it's time to get it done. So, at the end of the day, when we're in June and your study is finished, we'll then have an original study, an updated study, and your study that will most likely all say the same thing. And we will have just paved the way, because the state is really lagging on their time frame. If at any point in time, it's decided amongst all the people involved not to go forward with this, we simply don't put it on the ballot. If you miss your deadline to put a special question on the ballot, it doesn't go on the ballot. So there's no cause for alarm here.
So there's still a possibility that when all of the information comes to light, you know, I'm hoping that the council can, you know, work cooperatively with the Board of Education at Highland Elementary and Henry Hudson, because I think it's an extremely important discussion when you have your experts on the Board of Ed and your council members, and I think they should cohesively come together and work to come to a solution that's best for the community and for the students.
Absolutely agree.
Thank you.
Please, sir. Yes, you. Oh, sorry, I didn't see something pop up.
Regarding the school districts, is it,
Can you state your name?
sorry, I should know how to do this.
Yes, you should.
Ken Braswell, 62 Bradley Road. Is it true that the state is considering combining small districts on their
Yes.
own?
They are.
And,
They are considering doing that. That's why we wanted to get this out there so that we can shape our own destiny.
well, that was going to be my exact comments. If that's true, then we have no idea where we might end up. We could be joining with Middletown, which would make us a small fish on a big pond. We should,
The state is specifically looking at municipalities of under 10,000,
well,
which would
that's
tick all
us.
of our boxes. Even if we joined all of us together, we still won't. Well, we'd be very near 10,000.
Well, we would be in a better
Yes,
situation.
absolutely.
But in any regard, I think a community of 5,000 with one school district is definitely under consideration for being a small district that could stand being combined with a larger district. But as you said, I think we should shape our own future instead of having someone else do it. Even for those who aren't perfectly satisfied with the terms, at least they're our terms and not the state's terms. And then once you're combined with a larger school district, then, kind of all bets are off.
Right.
So, I think that's a very strong consideration among all the other ones. Councilwoman Olszewski, pardon me, was very elegant in your explanation of that. I think there's lots of important reasons why this should be kept moving forward up until the point of where voters have something to say about it. I think that's paramount, is to get it to voters. But doing nothing is going to put us probably in a perilous position with our districts. I think it's going to be easier to control one district than, control is not the right word, but have the districts manage themselves as a single organization than as three separate ones trying to do fancy footwork between them. So anyway, I hope that was somewhat helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Barbara Jones, 247 Bay Avenue. First of all, I got my new calendar today, and I'm very happy, and all your pictures were in there. So that was very nice to get, nice surprise in the mail today. Second, I'm wondering about the sewer project, because as Chris Francie knows, I'm on the corner of Bay and Atlantic, and we have water, and everybody keeps telling me it's the sewer. How do we find out about the sewer project? Or
No, this is a sanitary sewer
Sanitary
project,
sewer.
not storm sewer project.
It's not the same?
No. Believe me, you wouldn't want it combined.
Sanitary sewer is what we pay the money of the quarter for?
Correct.
And is there any way is this sewer project going to get rid of us paying like that and go back to like people water in, water out, so that we can pay what your usage is for sewer?
That would need to be an ordinance to change how things are collected. What we would have to look at is, once we are finished with this large project, is something that Mr. Francie would talk about a great deal, and that's I&I, which is inflow and infiltration. So we're hoping that by fixing all of these pipes, by which some of them are from the 1930s and they are terracotta, that we will stop some of this process of just regular groundwater, rainwater going in there, and then us sending it over to TOMSA to get treated. So if we're sending less sewage to get treated, our rates should go down.
Because it does come up from the sewer. That's what we have.
But that's the storm sewer, not the
Storm
sanitary.
sewer.
With the coming up from the sanitary sewer, that would be a big problem.
The last thing I'd like to know is you guys did pass the resolution on the redevelopment. And I just saw that the new plan came in on January 13th. I read it. And they're sticking with their 4 and 5 and 6-story buildings. The minimum is 40 feet in the residential area, and it goes up. And that's 40 feet above for the flood level. So if you have to go up 11 feet for the flood, that's 40 feet above that. And that's in the residential area.
No, wait, just hang on 1 second. On Bay Avenue and where this area is, the current zoning for the central business district is 36 feet.
Yes.
Okay? So we are saying that they're only adding 4 feet to that, which is this much.
I know it sounds like that.
No,
but when you
it
look at
is
the
that.
plans, If you look at the way.
Just let me finish.
Okay.
When you measure this, and I didn't do this, FEMA did this. When you measure the height of a building, if you are in the flood zone, you have to measure from BFE plus 1, which is 12 feet
Yes.
in this area.
Right.
So that's where you start your measurement. So if you have, say, a garage underneath, and then you could do 40 feet from there. It doesn't mean that everyone's gonna do 40 feet.
Well, it does, really.
Then why didn't anybody do 36 feet when it's been 36
Well,
feet for years?
people have done 36 feet. There's a lot of really tall buildings on Bay Avenue. And what everybody said in the survey was that they wanted it to stay the same. They didn't want it to get any taller.
The only place that we are allowing 50 feet is,
At the end,
no, we took away Water
Water
Witch.
Witch, good.
It's only,
That's
it's
40.
only on, South Second Street.
Yeah. Well, I think that,
That's the only place there where
Because somebody-
50 remains.
okay, well, the website needs to get straightened out, because every time I go to the zoning and land use regulations, okay, they're still real old, and they need to be updated. And it's not only the fact that it's the height, you're also going from, the setback is going from 12 feet to 2 feet, or 25 feet to 2 feet. The non-residential was 12 feet, and we're going from building coverage from 35% to 80%. You're really putting these big mammoth buildings on these spots, and it's the developers. It's, Torgon and Little John and, Salerno. They all own all the empty property, and they're the ones that want to build big complexes that are going to eat up everything. And we don't have a say in any of this now, or we have to go down to the land use board and petition them.
Well, at the land use board, what is going on, actually, Bobby, if you could please jump in here.
Thank you.
Counsel, attorney.
Oh, you're the lawyer.
Yes. Bhavani Doshi from McManus Solomon. I'm a redevelopment attorney for the borough. So the process from here is we will refer this now to land use board. Land use board will review the plan for consistency with the master plan, and then make a referral back to the council, at which there will be two meetings before this council. The first will be a first reading, where it will be introduced. The second will be the second reading, where there will be an opportunity again for the public to participate and have a hearing. And, so that's the process. So this is not this is only the beginning of the plan process. It still goes to land use board, and after that, there will be two more meetings here, at which the second meeting is the hearing.
Only because I didn't even realize that the new one had come back. I'm looking at it now. They've got their little pictures of the little, they're already showing 3 floors and an attic. And it goes above the 40 feet, and this is the residential. And I'm talking specifically about C01, which is between, is it Barbary and Cedar, where we're supposed to be mainly more residential than the other ends, we're the middle. And, and it just looks to me like there's empty spots and there's going to be real tall buildings going up. And really buildings that are going to take up the whole thing. There's not going to be any space, and I think the people on the other side of it are going to end up with no air, no breeze, no sun. It's going to make a difference, and I think that people need to realize that what we have now is really tall enough. We have a lot of tall buildings. Go up and down Bay Avenue, and you'll see them. There's no reason that we need to go any taller. So that's my 2 cents, because I care about this town, and I live on Bay Avenue. So I don't know that, there's not a lot of people that actually live there. So I'm affected by whatever happens. So it's not my business, it's my home. And I want to have a nice home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carter Dorito, 12 Cedar. First, I apologize, but a lot of members of the public are asking me to continue to Facebook Live because for some reason, the council's resistant to Zooming. And so now they're sending me questions to ask the council. So these are questions I'm asking on behalf of 3 different residents who have reached out to me, and I'm not a council member anymore. So the first question from one of the residents was, when will the sign on Linden be replaced? And why was a check issued before work was started? And why was the HBP paid and not the sign company? So that's the first question. The second question was...
Andy, is this even allowable?
Well, I can ask the question then, if you want.
No, I mean, asking questions for the people that are not present.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The second was about the confidential aid. Is it a civil service position? Is there a job description posted, and what are the qualifications? Because someone is interested in applying for that. Then their third question was, written agreement between the borough and Lions Club for the bocce court. Was the public included on the decision, and who is paying for the maintenance and insurance? And then the last question I have is mine. Is Pat ever coming back to any of the meetings? Because I've had some financial questions I'd like to ask him, and I haven't seen him in the last 5 meetings. Pat Blasio. So those are the questions, Ken. So are there any answers?
Well, I'll take the last one first. Pat generally comes to the first meeting of the
Right.
year, and he was away for reorg,
Okay,
and he missed this meeting,
okay,
so he's generally there at the first meeting.
okay.
There is no written agreement. We haven't even talked to engineering about the bocce court yet. It's something the Open Space Committee gave to the council as an idea to revamp this park that is severely underused.
And just
Go ahead.
the open space meetings, which are open to the public, which are Zoom
Yeah.
meetings, which anybody can join, which tends to not be joined by anybody other than the committee. But that being said, wide open if anybody has any questions for the Open Space Committee.
Okay, I'm just,
Just letting you pass that on to,
they're the people on
letting you
Facebook
pass
Live
that on
that,
to
yes.
anybody who wants to join the open
Okay.
space conversation. We're there. Last Wednesday of the month. Each month, last Wednesday, each month, Open Space Committee, 7:30 PM. Via Zoom.
Zoom. Yes, it is Zoom. All of our committee meetings are being done via Zoom. The assistant position, it's the same, as it was in the beginning. Nothing's changed. That was released before. I'm sure we can, I can try and find the exact description. It is outside of collective bargaining, as you would see if you looked at the updated ordinance. And as to, I cannot speak to when the sign on Linden is going to be replaced because it's a private sign on private property.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Zafalo, would you like to make a comment? There's no cross-talking between people. All the comments have to be directed here. Please take the microphone.
Carla Cefalo, answering the question on behalf of the Highlands Business Partnership. The reason the borough issued the check is because we filed a complaint because the borough employees went on private property and took private property and brought it to public property and then destroyed it on public property. So they were liable. So we were able to work out a mutual arrangement. So that's why they cut the check. The back of the sign, the structure that holds up the sign, had to be rebuilt before we can replace the sign. That project was recently completed, not even 30 days ago. And obviously now it's weather and winter, and we're in the process of designing the new sign. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay.
Claudia Dorito, Chelsea. It's not a question, it's actually a comment concerning the Board of Education and this reorganization plan. I do know that when I was on council in 2018, that this was being discussed at that time, and that Ricky O'Neill and Kim Gonzalez did go to Trenton to sit in on meetings to start this process. So it hasn't really been this council. It started before this, and I think that it's fair to let people know that it's not been an instant thing that just this council just decided.
Because it's been talked about for 40
years.
40 years.
Yes, and I was on council at the time, and I think that's fair to let people know that.
Absolutely. Seeing no one else, I'm going to make a comment and going to close public portion. Just before we leave, I wanted to remind everyone that there's COVID testing here, Mondays through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The only days that we're not doing it, as I said previously, are the 18th and 19th. The Grab and Go St. Patrick's Day meal is going to be on March 18th, and it's going to be a grab and go in the parking lot of the skate park. For those of you that remember Tom Phillips' film, The Remains of the Dead, there's a follow-up on April 9th. There will be a screening for his new film called Chasing the Dead. That's going to be here in the evening. And if you're here during the day, Clean Ocean Action will be here, and you can get your picture with the Easter Bunny. And then on April 29th, we're going to be joining up with the Highlands Fire Department for an adult comedy night, and that will be at 7 p.m. at the firehouse. And does anyone have anything else? Okay. I motion to adjourn.
I second.
Councilmember Savantes.
Yes.
Councilmember Chaloff.
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Olszewski.
Yes.
Mayor Bouillon.
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.